best, but Igawa's shot off just before we actually get to the section about Arsenal, which is interesting.
Couldn't wait to go.
Let me just, I wanted to ask you guys, there's a link I read about them today to Zubimendi. Will, obviously, probably know a little bit more about him than people that predominantly watch the Premier League because you watch La Liga. Is that the type of profile you think Arsenal should be looking at over the course of this summer?
I'm going to be honest, I haven't really watched that much of Zubimendi, but what I would say is no. For me, I think Arsenal need to go out there and look at a midfielder that's more so already proven in the Prem, that's not going to need time to adjust, because I think all the signings that they have to make this summer, it has to be players who are going to be able to help them win immediately, right? Like, not guys that got to embed into the team and then they got to catch up to like the physicality and the speed. So I don't necessarily think he should be the guy that they go after. But at the same time, I haven't watched him as much.
Yeah. What about yourself, Steph?
No, listen, I like Zubimendi. I haven't watched a lot of him. I won't pretend that I did, but I've seen enough for him to just see what kind of player he is. I think he's a good player. I think we've spoken about him earlier in the season as on the top 6 before, and I didn't think really he's the signing that I kind of see Arteta going for, because I think the thing is Partey is leaving, so I'm kind of looking for a like replacement with Partey. And Partey, even though he's a physical player, he kind of lacked a little bit on the defensive end. And I look at Zubimendi, does he fit? I mean, I see a scenario where him being there, playing in the Arsenal team, but is he the perfect fit for me? Probably not. I feel like they need someone with a little bit more of a physical presence in that midfield, as equally as being a very good distributor of the ball. Like, you need like a Busquets. He's more of a Busquets than he is, I don't know, like a Casemiro as an example, But you need someone with a little bit more of a physical presence, because I feel like it's a big thing in the Premier League. You can't get these players like Jorginho as an example. Jorginho would struggle if he didn't have a physical midfielder next to him. Obviously, Kante covered him for years. Rice covered him this year, because that's just the type of player he is. I'd rather go for someone who's a little bit more rounded than just being that dictator that Zubimendi is. Good player. I probably think they would need something better than that.
And then also, like, how much would Sociedad even want for Zubimendi? Like, how much?
Well, you're probably looking at a similar. I mean, this is what's interesting, because Bruno Guimaraes seems to be the player that a lot of Arsenal fans want. But a lot of the stories coming out of Newcastle are he's going to cost ridiculous amounts of money. We don't really need to sell. I'm intrigued by Newcastle's FFP situation, because they're not in Europe now. So that 70% marker, they no longer need to hit. There's a Premier League marker of 85%. So does that actually, for Newcastle, does it relieve the pressure on selling people now? Because if Newcastle don't have to sell, they're not going to, unless the players are forcing the move. So I think some fans want him, but he could be more expensive than Zubimendi.
But I don't think that much more expensive, because I saw reports that Bruno has a release clause of like 100 million. You could go in there and you could buy him. And I think that would be more so the move for Arsenal to make than Zubimendi, who's coming from a league where it's a lot slower. You're going to have a lot more time on the ball. And he is good on the ball as well. But I don't really think that that's what Arsenal need.
A report here says that he's got a release clause of about £51 million, Zubimendi.
Zubimendi has a... Oh, okay, never mind.
Only this
How much is it?
51. I've just Googled it. There's one place here saying 51 million. There's another that says 60 million euros. So it's probably about the same. Another one here says 52 million. So if that's I mean, that's what Arsenal have got to get right this summer. They need a goal scorer, but it depends on how much that person costs you. But then you've got to look at the other areas you need and the quality. I really think Arsenal, again, I would hate for them to do this because I like him. But I think if they're going to buy someone that isn't already in the Prem, Barca want rid of him. I would look at Frankie de Jong.
Yeah, I see a better scenario with Frankie de Jong, because I feel like Rice's partnership with Frankie de Jong would be decent. Because I wanted Rice to partner Mainu in our midfield. Obviously, it's not possible. Like, we can't get Rice off of Arsenal. Let's just be honest. But I always looked at Arsenal at Rice being Mainu's perfect partner there. Because when Mainu goes up the pitch, as we've seen, when he crashes the box late, like we've seen, like that goal versus City as example, when he goes up the pitch in general and dictates play and does his whole thing, he can rely on someone just sitting, not necessarily a sitting 6 at all time, but they can take turns. So when someone else goes up, someone else can cover him. Rice does that. Rice goes up. I know he doesn't have the best ball distribution, but when he goes up the pitch, he's kind of effective. We've seen him chip in with a few goals, a few assists and stuff like that. When Frankie de Jong is on the pitch and he kind of goes forward, carries the ball, because he's arguably the best ball carrier in the world right now. So when he goes and does that, Rice can actually cover for him. I'm like, okay, I'm a drop right now just in case we get countered, this like that. I'm gonna cover that hole in the midfield while you do your thing. Equally, Frankie de Jong is not the best defensive player, but he can kind of sit a little bit while someone else is up the pitch and doing that thing. So I feel like he's a better partner than Zubimendi in my idea.
I mean, I hear that, but then at the same time, though, if you bring in Frankie de Jong, right, one, it's going to cost a lot of money, and
That's the
everybody
issue.
says that. Yeah, so it's a lot of money for a player that isn't a DM, right? He is more of a central midfielder, and it's like you brought up.
That's what I
like
say. It's a partnership.
Rice, but then the thing is, then that could get tricky because now it's like, let's say if Rice goes up and then you have like Frankie de Jong and he's like that line of defense before like the back line, that could be tricky if you lose the ball now because he's not the best defensively. So I think Arsenal, they do need somebody a bit more.
Not really. I'll tell you why. So Arsenal's defense is much more capable of defending the transition than probably anyone else in the league. I think they're the best. They're the best back line in the league in defending transition, whether it's Gabriel or whether it's Saliba. So yes, having what's his name, Frankie de Jong as an example, the first person on the transition rather than a Rice. Yeah, it's not ideal because Rice is a better defender than him. But I don't worry that much because I look at my backline and my backline can defend the transition better than arguably any other team. That's the issue that City have. City on the transition are a very poor team. This is why at this time in age you see Kyle Walker still playing. Kyle Walker is not at his best at all. And I've seen people like LB calling him out and other City fans, and rightfully so. But the reason someone as Kyle Walker plays all the time is because their backline and Rodri are not great at defending the transition. So they kind of have to balance it out with someone else. So that's why they keep him. I look at Arsenal and I'm like, they're much more fit. They are much more capable than anyone else in the league to kind of afford to having somewhat of a soft six who is not that great physically. And I don't even want Frankie de Jong as a six anyways. I told you he'd partner Rice in that midfield. It would be more of a double pivot, and Odegaard is up there doing his thing anyways. If that makes sense.
You know? No, I think it's a really interesting one to see what it is that what they're gonna do. I'm intrigued by it a lot. We have some super chats here. First one says from Sophia. I hope you're well, Sophia. She says, I think this has a lot to do with Pep Man City system. Back the Haaland situation. Haaland for the other clubs he has played for contributes more than just goals. In a counter-attacking system, you see more of his attributes. Well, he has got speed. So I think, again, in a team that plays on the transition, maybe you would view him as more impactful. I think it's a really good point, Sophia. This appointment will change Chelsea either way. If it goes right, we'll give time to Enzo. If it goes wrong, the whole structure could be getting destroyed. Imagine it goes wrong for two Enzos on the bounce. Just putting it out there. It's judging only from the interviews is hard, but if he behaves the same way with players, he'll lose all respect the moment the club starts to play good. I don't know what that's in relation to. It might be in relation to Enzo. This was for the Don earlier. It says, Don, please stop waffling. You change arguments to suit. It's ridiculous. Chelsea are done. No title for 10 years plus. Two Enzos, both championship quality, is what Gunnar Verf says. And Chike here says, big up Terry and the gang. Why can't every club in England build up Real Madrid and demand high standards? Also, I'm tired of people saying nobody can beat Pep. The same issue in the US where nobody thinks you can beat the Chiefs. Well, not everybody can behave like Real Madrid because it would be impossible in the sense of you could have the ambition to be there, but if you don't have the I can't act like Elon Musk as much as I can. Like, you get those people that are always, those people that are out there and they're always sharing like powerful quotes from people about how to behave and how to become a boss and how to become a guru. Bro, great. That saying works, but I can't behave like Elon Musk. I've not got £100+ billion in the bank, so I can't have the same life expectations of him and to do the same things. There's no way that Leyton Orient can wake up tomorrow and go, we're going to start acting like Real Madrid. When we sack our next manager, we're going after Zidane. So I get your point. You should have the ambitions to get there, but you have to know where you are. End of the day, how tall are you, Staffy?
Touching 6'4".
Oh, you're 6'4", so you would have a chance. How about you, Will?
6 foot.
6 foot. So you two could. I couldn't. Doesn't matter how great my determination is. I'm 5'10". There was no way I was going to make it in the NBA. No matter how much I tried, how hard. Do you get my point? You two, even 6 foot. I don't know if it's tall. I don't know how many basketball players. Probably not.
It's not actually tall for the NBA. Yeah. It's not.
6'4" is not even tall for the NBA.
Yeah. To put it into context, Steph Curry. You probably know who Steph Curry is. That plays for the Golden State.
Yes, I know he is. Yeah.
He's very tiny, but he's 6'4".
But exactly, right? You get those players that look small, but in reality, they're still quite big, right? You get that in rugby over here, right? There's a few players you look at, oh, he's not that big. And then you read and you see that he's 6'2" and still weighs 17 stone, but it's next to the other guys. He looks like an absolute a shrimp. So that's my point. So yes, you can have the ideals to be like Real Madrid, but not everybody's got the facilities for that big man. So yeah,
to be fair, we don't spend that much money, Terry. I mean, so I think the last maybe 7 or 8 seasons, we only spent big 3 times. It's Hazard, Tchouaméni, and Jude. Everybody else, it's been good deals like Vinny, Rodrigo, those guys. They don't
but historically, you got a Bill, you got a Ronaldo.
Okay, yeah, sure. Okay,
obviously, when you got Figo at the time, even Zidane at the time was record money.
That was record fee. Yeah, it was
Zidane, if he was in today's market, he would be almost 300 million. That's how much.
Yeah, I think it's also this is the biggest thing. The biggest element is wages. It's the wages, and you guys, like all the other big teams, City spend almost as much on wages as Arsenal earns in income each year. So when Arsenal fans say we should do what City do, well, until you get the money up to over 800 million a year, you literally can't. It's physically impossible to. And that element is where, so again, having the ideals of getting there, but understanding it's going to take time. So what Arsenal fans should be saying is we should be acting like City. So let's help the club build up the revenue by buying the merch. And that's why when I see Arsenal fans moaning about the merch coming out, but then saying we need the club to spend like City, I think, but if no one buys the merch, if no one buys the sponsors products, you're not going to increase the revenue. There we go. But look, boys,
Madrid is also state funded. I'm not even making excuses because I expect my club to operate at that level because we're that big, but they are kind of state funded.
No, that's a great
the country's club. So